In the summer of 1997, O.J. Simpson would meet Nicole Brown at a jewelry store. The two would hit it off and would soon begin dating. This was despite O.J. already being married to another woman by the name of Margaret. Outside of playing football, he would spend all his time with Nicole, only visiting Margaret to see their newborn baby. In 1979, O.J. and Margaret would divorce and he would find a place with Nicole. Later on, he would state, at this point, life was pretty good and that he felt like the luckiest guy in the world. It wouldn't be until 1983 that the two would get engaged. Only a year after this, both would routinely get into heated arguments. At one point, O.J. would grab a baseball bat and smash the hood of his car in front of her. Just moments later, a police cruiser would show up at their house. Nicole had called them during their argument. However, she would soon tell the officer that she no longer needed assistance and he would leave. Despite the obvious sign of trouble brewing within their relationship, they would set a date for their wedding 2 weeks later. On February 2nd of 1985, the two would be married, and by October of that same year, Nicole would give birth to their daughter, Sydney Brooks. By January of 1992, the marriage had become rocky. As O.J. returned from a playoff game, Nicole would state that she wanted to separate. Soon after this, she would take the kids and move to another location. O.J. would continue to send her flowers and make advances. However, Nicole would begin to see other men and soon the marriage would be over. Later on, the divorce would be finalized and the two would split custody of the kids. Despite both dating other people, they would continue to sleep with one another. Unfortunately, this again would lead to more turbulence. On October 25th, 1993, while filming for the movie Naked Gun, O.J. would hear from a female co-star that Nicole had been having wild parties around their children. Infuriated, O.J. would drive to Nicole's house and an argument would ensue. Nicole would soon call the police.
911 emergency.
Can you get someone over here now to 325 Gretna Green? He's back. Please.
Well, okay, what does he look like?
He's O.J. Simpson. I think you know his record. Could you just send somebody over here?
Okay, what is he doing there?
He just drove up again.
He just drove up
over?
Okay, wait a minute, what kind of car is he in?
He's in a white Bronco, but first of all, he broke the back door down to get in.
Okay, wait a minute, what's your name?
Nicole Simpson.
Okay, is he the sportscaster or whatever?
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
Wait a minute, we're sending the police. What is he doing? Is he threatening you?
I'm going nuts.
Okay, has he threatened you in any way, or is he just harassing you?
You're going to hear him in a minute. He's about to come in again.
Okay, just stay on the line.
I don't want to stay on the line. He's going to beat the shit out of me.
Wait a minute, just stay on the line so we can know what's going on until the police get there, okay? Okay, Nicole?
Uh-huh.
Just a moment. Does he have any weapons?
I don't know.
Okay.
He went home, now he's back. My
Okay.
kids are upstairs sleeping, and I don't want anything to happen.
Okay. Has he hit you today or no?
No.
Okay, you don't need any paramedics or anything? Okay. You just want him to
My
leave.
door. He broke the whole back door in.
And then he left and he came back?
And he came and he practically knocked my upstairs door down, but he pounded it, and then he screamed and hollered, and I tried to get him out of the bedroom because the kids were sleeping in there.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And then he wanted somebody's phone number, and I gave him my phone book and put my phone book down to write down the phone number that he wanted, and then he took my phone book with all my stuff in it.
The dispatch.
What?
What does he say?
What else?
Calling units, your domestic violence at 30 Cartier 325 South Gretna Greenway is now too high. The suspect is now entered in the shelter and it is refusing to leave. It's code too high. It's been 4221 RD 825 children involved. Just stay on the line, okay? Is he upset with something that you did?
Oh, a long time ago. It always comes back.
After this, things would only continue to escalate. According to sources, OJ's friend Charlie would stop by his house one night. Charlie would inform OJ that Nicole had been at a wild party months back with drugs, liquor, and sex. This would infuriate OJ, and the pair would drive to Nicole's house. Once there, OJ would slip on his leather gloves, wool cap, and pull out a knife from under the driver's seat. Next, he would exit the vehicle, head toward Nicole's house, and into the alley leading to her back gate. Unfortunately, the back gate didn't work properly. All OJ had to do was push the gate and it opened with ease. It was here that he would see lights flickering in the windows as well as lit candles burning in the house. Moments later, a man by the name of Ron Goldman would enter the courtyard. After OJ questioned him, Ron would state that he was merely there to drop off a pair of glasses. Earlier that night, Nicole, along with her children and a few others, would go out to eat at a restaurant. After they left, Nicole's mother would realize she had left her glasses. Ron Goldman would retrieve the glasses and deliver them to the house. Despite this, OJ would lose his temper, accusing Ron of delivering drugs to Nicole. Charlie would then walk into the courtyard, asking if everything was okay. Nicole would soon hear the shouting and investigate. This would soon turn into an argument between all four people. Not long after this, the argument would turn physical. At some point during the fight, both Nicole and Ron would be stabbed repeatedly. OJ Simpson would be covered in blood. In front of him would lay the dead bodies of Nicole and Ron. During the autopsy, it would be found that Nicole's throat had been slashed so deep that she was near decapitation. After this, both Charlie and OJ ran back to their car. Along the way, OJ would remove his blood-stained clothing, rolling it all into a bundle. They would enter their car and speed off into the night. Eventually, he would make it back home. Once he arrived, he handed the bundle of bloody clothes to Charlie. From this point, OJ would instruct Charlie to park the car in his driveway and get rid of the blood-stained clothes. OJ would enter his house and take a shower. Moments later, he would hear his phone ring. It was his limousine driver. OJ would let the phone ring with the plan to tell the driver he had been asleep the entire time. However, that driver had already spotted him entering his house. Regardless, OJ would hop into the limo, head off to the airport, and get on his plane to Chicago. Once he arrived, he would head straight to the O'Hare Plaza Hotel, check himself in, and then fall asleep as if nothing had happened. Not much later, OJ would be awakened by the sound of his phone ringing. He would answer it, only to discover the police were on the other line. They would inform him that his wife had been killed. They would further state that he needed to head back to Los Angeles, which he did a few hours later. OJ would then be handcuffed at his house. Soon after this, he would find himself in an interrogation room. OJ would provide no alibi for the time frame of the murder. This interrogation would last approximately 3 hours. After this, an investigation would ensue where a leather glove would be found outside his house. This glove would match one found at the scene of the crime. Furthermore, blood would be found on the evidence which would match that of OJ and the two victims. OJ would also be found to have a wound on his hand. However, he would later claim that this wound was from throwing a glass in his hotel room. Along with this, shoe prints found at the scene of the crime would match a pair found at OJ's house. On June 16th, 1994, Nicole's funeral would take place. The very next day, O.J. Simpson would be charged with murder. Soon after this, a warrant for his arrest would be issued. O.J. would be informed that doctors were on the way to his house to collect blood and hair samples. After they got what they needed, O.J.'s friend A.C. Cowlings would drive him to the police station. Along the way, O.J. would put a gun to his head, wanting to take his own life. However, a radio announcement about the case would piss him off. He would then demand A.C. take him home. This was despite the fact that O.J. was to turn himself in by 11 a.m. O.J.'s behavior would result in a police chase which would last for around 2 hours. All the while, he would threaten to end his own life. Eventually, he would turn himself in and be arrested. During investigation, much evidence would be found pointing to O.J. murdering Nicole and Ron. Letters written by Nicole would be found in her home, which detailed a long history of abuse by O.J. Along with this, a cap found at the scene of the murder would contain hairs consistent with O.J. Simpson's DNA. Blood found at the scene of the crime was consistent with his as well. A pair of gloves discovered near the bodies matched that of a pair O.J. had purchased in 1990. Once in court, he would try on the gloves and they would not fit. Years later, it would be found that O.J. had stopped taking his arthritis medication, which made his hands swell. This is why they would not fit in court. Despite all the evidence, prosecutors failed to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that O.J. had committed the murder. And with this, he was acquitted. On September 13th, 2007, O.J. Simpson would release a book titled If I Did It, basically admitting to the murder in a hypothetical way. According to one of the publishers, he would admit to the murder over the phone but wanted to title the book If I Did It so he could have deniability with his children. Now, what do you think? Is O.J. Simpson innocent? Or is he a cold-blooded murderer who eluded justice? Leave your thoughts down below.